If you are 30, married, have kids, own a house, you're like in the top 90-ish percentile of people your age and demographic, because that just isn't a thing right now. It's alarming how many kids are just suffering alone and in silence. And if they don't have an adult really caring about them and walking with them in their life, they can just live their teenage years and then become young adults. And then eventually they become workers in the community and society. They become parents, and they're still hurting because no one really cared enough to really get to know them. I mean, I hear two things. I hear being smart with your money, what you can afford, right? And like that's the emotional side of money and spending. And then the other part of it is setting the expectation. Hey, 5 to 7 years at a minimum is a good place for you to be, whether you're a first-time home buyer or second time, doesn't matter. That's still happening in the world, by the way, this modern day slavery type. And to me, that's what credit card debt is. You see how much interest is paid if you don't pay back your full balance every month. And it's really a hard cycle. So,
hey guys, I'm your host, Gavin Sessions, and I believe that a mortgage is certainly a transaction, but it's so much more than that. It is a stepping stone for you and your family to start to establish stability and dreams and the foundation for the future. I am so excited today for this conversation. I'm pumped to introduce you to a personal friend of mine. He is in the financial advising space. His name is Jacob Davelaar. We have kind of a cool story that we're going to share with you on how we met and his transition as from vocational ministry, full-time ministry, into what he's doing now. But Jacob is a guy who is absolutely living on mission to help people for a greater cause than just earning an income. So we are excited to have him here today and to hear his story. Do you remember? Because I actually think I remember, but I don't know that I remember very clearly. So why don't you try to reminisce?
Yeah,
how we got connected.
I'm probably in the same boat as you. I moved out here from Snohomish, Washington, to Boise with a job with Young Life.
Directly from Snohomish to here?
Yes, okay. to Meridian specifically for a job with Young Life. I was the area director out in Snohomish for 5 years. We had our first baby, moved here, and getting to know everyone in a new town, anyone with a Young Life contact I tried to reach out to, and I was having probably 10, 20 meetings a week with people, going to people's homes for dinner and all that stuff. Anyway, I met Gavin, or I heard Gavin's name from multiple people, like, oh, he's from Washington as well, and he's a big UW Huskies fan, and he's also, I think he went to Snohomish. I'm like, wow, there's like all these things in common, and he's a Young Life guy, you know, he loves the ministry. So we must have met probably at some sort of committee thing or at some end of year party thing. I just remember you rolling up in a big old
It was on the boat.
Oh, it was on the boat. It was on the boat. Yes. Yeah, I was on the boat, and I remember just peppering you with questions like,
was that the day that Matt Romberg was out there too? Was it like
it was a staff,
like a regional staff day on the lake?
Yes.
That Mueller put me up to?
Yes, he did. And I remember thinking, this guy is really cool. Think about you.
Well, because I think we'd both known of each other.
Yeah.
And it was inevitable that we were going to meet, and we met that day.
Yeah. Went surfing, and it was great. Lucky Peak. And I just thought to myself, how can I own a boat one day like this guy? I'm just kidding. But it was great. It was a fun experience. And so, Gavin, I've definitely clicked ever since then. Easy to talk to, like-minded. And that's always helpful in new relationships. So
I feel like you knew my cousin, or still do. Last name Wolf, Brian Wolf.
Oh, Brian. Yeah. So I know Lindsay, his wife.
Yeah.
We went to high school together. Well, I went to Glacier Peak. She went to Snohomish, 2 different high schools within Snohomish. However.
Is Brian older than you then, or younger?
He's like 3 or 2 years older.
Okay, so he married a younger gal then.
Yeah.
So Lindsay's a Snohomish girl too.
She is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, big time. Her parents' names are Don and Donna, and they both were teachers. Anyway.
At high school teachers?
At Snohomish, yeah.
What's their last name?
Sieb. Donna Sieb.
I never had them.
Okay, yeah.
I wonder if either of them were teachers at the old school, Snohomish High School, when I was there.
Like freshman campus?
Yeah.
That deal? Yeah. I don't know.
Were you even building A or building B at the main campus? You went to Glacier Peak though?
I did. It was a brand new school.
Yeah.
In 2008. So that's when I was a freshman and all that.
It's funny. My parents actually moved from where I grew up, which was technically an Everett address because it was unincorporated Snohomish County. Mm-hmm. And it was in between Lake Stevens and Snohomish, but we were actually slotted for Lake Stevens School District.
Right.
But didn't go there because I went to a private school before, and none of my friends were going to go to Lake Stevens, largely speaking. So I went to Snohomish. Yep. We had the choice. And ironically, after I graduated, quite a bit after I graduated, my parents moved away from that house to a house right by Glacier Peak.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
In Gold Creek?
No, Highlands East.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, we were just looking up the other day. We were trying to, on Easter, we were trying to rack our brain, all of us. What was the address of that place? And we found it by going to Zillow or whatever it was. And
yeah, it's probably appreciated a ton since.
That's why we were looking it up. We were wondering.
Yeah. Yeah. My parents, they sold their house in Gold Creek, really close neighborhood. Yeah. Bought their home in 2004. Sold it last year. It appreciated $1 million. You know, bought a house out here. They had cash.
So they moved here.
They did. Yeah. They're off of Black Cat and McMillan.
Common story. Parents following kids.
Yeah. Well, we got grandkids now, you know.
That's true.
And they want to be involved and all that.
Hey, tell me more. You said grandkids. Let's hear about your family.
Yeah. So I'm married 7 years to my wife, Kelsey. She's amazing. She is also from Snohomish, Washington. She went up to Boise State for college as a Division I athlete. She was a gymnast.
Okay. And
she did gymnastics ever since she was 3 years old and was very gifted, very hardworking. And that sport is grueling and brutal, but it makes you mentally and physically very, very strong. And so she chose Boise State because they essentially were recruiting her since she was, 11 years old, 12 years old, from a young age. And moved up here, went to school, loved it, moved back home to Washington. I graduated from the University of Washington. We kind of got together. We knew each other in high school. Go Dogs, baby. That's right. And then, we just kind of reconnected and quickly realized like, hey, like, I love you. Let's get married. Let's do this thing. It didn't take me very long to figure it out. It took her a little longer.
So she was probably your connection to this area then?
She was, yeah. So when we got married in 2017, I mean, the bug was in my ear. Hey, if we ever have a chance to move to Boise, let's go back because it feels like home to me, you know. And she was always happiest being here. The sunshine, the people, the good vibes, you know, the outdoorsiness of it all. It's a slower pace of life, which I really like. And I didn't really see the vision until we visited a couple times. Because being from like the greater Seattle area, it's just so different, you know. I think the thing I miss the most is the food. There's no question. Food on the coast is really good. But yeah, we got married, moved out here, and we have 2 boys, Judah and Levi, 4 years old and 2 years old. And they're keeping our lives pretty full right now. But they're great. I love them. They're the best, man. And becoming a dad was, you know, when we had Judah, it was 2020. So on top of all the stuff going on, throw in becoming a parent into the mix, it was pretty wild. And I mean, there was no other way it could have happened. It was perfect timing. And for a lot of people, that was a really crappy year. For us, it was like one of the best years of our lives because of having our son. You know? And then Levi was born, and that was back in Washington. Then Levi was born here at St. Al's, January of 23.
So when did you guys move here then?
2021.
Okay, so married in 17, moved here in 21.
Yep. And then had our second baby here in 23.
Got it, okay.
Yep. So the housing market then was also, you know, we bought a house in Washington, in Lake Stevens, actually, next to Zion Lutheran.
On 130?
Yes.
So that's the street I grew up on.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
It's getting a little creepy.
I remember.
I love it.
Yeah. I may have lived in your old house for all I know.
Wait a minute.
Probably not. It was on 99th Drive Southeast.
So 92nd was that cross street that would take you out to Highway 9.
Yes.
Oh, 32nd. That was 32nd.
Yeah.
So at the south end was Bunk Foss Road, right?
Yes.
How far from the south?
I mean, we were literally across the street from Zion Lutheran.
Okay, so you guys were further south than us. Because if you had traveled north towards and you found the dip, you know?
Yep.
So we go down the dip and then up the other side, and we were on the
You're on that way?
right-hand side.
Yeah.
So that'd be the east side.
Yeah.
Closer to Glenwood Elementary.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, the dip.
Which I'm pretty sure there's now, we sold that house and actually somebody bought it from us and moved it because we sold to a developer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's all houses in there now.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, yeah, I remember some of that starting to be built.
Yeah.
When we lived there. And what's that? There was a little gas station.
Tom Thumb.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I used to ride my bike there all the time.
That had everything you possibly needed. Yeah. So anyway, so we bought a house there in 2018 or 2019. I can't really remember. We were young and there's no way we should have gotten a loan, but we did.
Was that technically Lake Stevens at that point?
It was still unincorporated Everett.
So Everett. Okay.
Yeah.
98205.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it might still be for all I know.
Mm-hmm.
It may have changed, but we bought a house and it was a buyer's market. And so at the time the seller paid all the closing costs. And I'm like, well, that's good because I didn't know what closing costs were. So I'm glad I don't have to pay an extra $15,000 or whatever it was at the time. I think I was 26, 25 when we bought the house. And I mean, we barely got approved for a loan. I think 30-year interest rates were mid threes and we got approved for like 5.5, which was high at the time.
Yeah. What year was this?
I think it was 2018 or 2019. One of those two.
No, interest rates would have still been in the high fours because I actually got on the mortgage business in middle of 18. And the first deal I ever closed as a loan officer, I closed at 4.875.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And that was maybe like September of 18.
Of 18. Okay.
If you got a rate in the fives, that would have been probably about right.
Decent. Okay. We did refinance.
Like
8 months later. So I don't know if it made sense, but it just, it happened.
Hard to know.
It happened. So moving out here in 21, it was great because we had all this equity in the house. You know, I built a deck in the backyard. That was basically it. And the house appreciated $140,000. And then we sold. And,
yeah, you guys did well.
Yeah. It was all timing though.
Yeah.
You know, I can't really say I did anything except it was just great timing.
No, but I don't think you remember a guy named Josh Siegel. I'll plug him really fast. He's an awesome dude. We helped plant a church with them in Kirkland. So Reach Church. I don't know if you remember hearing about that.
Yeah.
Josh was always just a great guy. I'll plug him again. But one thing he always told me is Gavin, you seem to just play your cards really well. And I'm like, well, thanks for the compliments. I mean, all I can do is credit the Lord that he put things on my heart at the time.
Right.
And yes, we have had some things work out in our favor. I'll say it that way for sure.
Yeah.
And it sounds like your home purchase and timing and selling and all that. Very similar.
100%. I can only thank God for that. I mean, I didn't, these things happen and it's like, well, it's so much out of my control because you don't know what's going to happen in the housing market and the economy. It really is up to chance, which is kind of brutal to say, but I mean, it's not to say.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, well, like it was God's favor on my life and all of that. And that could be very true.
Hashtag blessed.
And yeah. But then I think of the flip side of like my friends who can't buy a house now, you know, and it's like, oh, does God not give me favor? It's like, well, it's not, I don't think that's the case. It's just, I don't know. Everything does end up, as corny as it sounds, happening for specific reasons. But I'm glad that we were able to even be in a house. I mean, I saw this statistic that was like only, I'm going to butcher it, so I won't even try. It was a low number, but if you are 30, married, have kids, own a house, you're like in the top 90-ish percentile of people your age and demographic, because that just isn't a thing right now. And the first time home buyer age, you probably know this, is 37, 38 years old.
Gosh, no, I did not.
Okay, it's a new release information. It's up like 5 years from the last time they did this, like 4 years ago. Crazy. Like it used to be 32 was the first time years old.
Yeah.
You buy your first home. Now it's like 37. And I don't know where it's going to go. I mean, I'm hopeful. We have to be hopeful,
Yeah. I mean, I think we can look back at history. There's lots of data that says if you can buy a house and if you own it for a lengthy period of time, right? So don't buy it with the intention of trying to offload it in the next year or two and make a quick buck, right? Totally. I go back to friends that did that in 2008 in the Seattle area. There was some crazy mortgages available at the time. Basically show up with a smile and a driver's license, and you could get yourself into a house, interest only, guaranteed appreciation.
Yeah.
You're not even making an interest only payment. It's literally subprime. Your mortgage balance is actually growing.
Yeah.
But your appreciation was supposed to outgrow it, right? And that's where we ended up in the pickle that we were in.
Totally. Yeah.
But now what I try to tell people is, hey, we're going to qualify you the right way.
Yeah.
You can afford this as long as you are smart with your money. You don't have to want to afford it, right?
Yep.
But if you can get into it with the intention of owning it for, I say 5 to 7 years at a minimum.
Yep.
But I think the data shows if you own a house for a decade, there's not a decade in history where somebody that bought a home and that 10 years later sold it for less. There just isn't one.
Yeah.
And that's the power of the real estate market and the power of getting your name on a piece of property for the sake of the stability of your family and just the wealth generation for your family.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I hear two things. I hear being smart with your money, what you can afford, right? And like the emotional side of money and spending in a home.
Right.
And then the other part of it is setting the expectation. Hey, 5 to 7 years at a minimum is a good place for you to be, whether you're a first-time home buyer or second time, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But over a historical period of time, 10 years, if someone would have told me that when I bought my first house, I'd have been like, okay, maybe I should stay here. Because if we would have waited, the whole like what if game, if we would have waited and we did live there for 10 years, we'd still be living there. And it was a 1 bathroom, 1,100 square foot, so there's that. But today, we bought for, it would have appreciated, I think if we sold today, $250,000.
Oh, for sure. And I think getting into the home with the plan to hold it for the long term is the appropriate mindset. It doesn't mean that if opportunity presents itself that you may not exit early. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
So take advantage of an opportunity if it's there, if your heart's been changed and you're onto the next thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you're up to. But before we get too far into our conversation on money, because we're going to get there, I'm sure of it. Why don't we back up just a little bit and talk about some of your work history, your ministry experience. Yeah. You teased earlier that you met with 10 to 20 people a week when you first got here. Yeah. I hear that and I'm like, that's a sales position.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But you weren't selling anything but the gospel, right? I mean, you were selling.
Yeah.
And I hate to.
No, you're not wrong.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that experience. And then where I want to go is I'd love to hear how well that translates into what you're doing now.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. It's a great question. My grandfather's always told me like, hey, no matter what job you do, you're always in sales because you sell yourself wherever you go, and who you are is your greatest asset. I want to work with you. I want to follow you. I want to lead with you. I want to donate to the ministry you're leading because I trust this guy or this girl, like they seem awesome. So yeah, when I was in college, I mean, I had a bunch of hodgepodge jobs. I worked at the Snohomish Golf Course, actually. Yeah, I did.
It was always so soggy though.
Yeah. Well, I was on landscaping duty. So I was cutting fairways and changing the cups and painting tee boxes. And that was like a 3:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. type of job. You got to get it all done before people show up. Then I would go to community college for, a few hours. And then at night I'd work at a restaurant and then I would wake up and do all that.
Wait, what restaurant?
Boston's in Mill Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Mill Creek Town Center.
Mill Creek Town Center. Yeah. They actually just ran out of business, which is sad. But you learn how to talk to people and, serve people.
Yeah.
I think everyone should work in the service industry. It's great. You get treated horribly and you have to learn how to deal with difficult people. And that's just life.
Yeah.
Everyone's difficult. I'm difficult in my own ways.
Preach it.
Maybe, yeah, like it is what it is. So I loved being in that service industry. I worked at the YMCA as a member services rep, which means I just folded towels and checked people in. But that was still like fun and exciting. I was a brand ambassador for a coconut water company called Vita Coco. And all I would do is I'd have little, you know what a Red Bull girl is?
Yes.
I was basically a Red Bull girl for Vita Coco. I'd go out to like parades and concerts and trade shows. And I'd go hand out coconut water to strangers and talk to people. So
instead of looking cute, you had a great personality and you're very outgoing.
Exactly. Yes.
Talk to anybody.
Exactly. Although for that job, I had to like submit headshots and, do you work out? There's some of that going on.
All right.
So to be fair.
And of course you work out.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah.
Look at these guns.
That's why I wore the shirt today.
A sleeveless shirt here almost.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, so I got really good and I've always known my gifts were to connect with people. So whether it was coconut water, selling the special of the night at the restaurant, or eventually getting into ministry and talking about why the need for adult relationship with teenagers is so important as a bridge to sharing the gospel of Jesus, it just became more and more refined. And so when I did all these hodgepodge jobs in college, I worked at Wells Fargo as well. We got robbed a couple times at gunpoint and at knife point, which was exciting, exhilarating, and scary.
Yeah. So quick plug for Jacob. He's got a lot of stories. If you find yourself listening to this and you want to know more, he's got a lot of stories.
Yeah. So we don't have to get into all of that. I may have already told you that story, but so when I graduated college, I got baptized and I realized like I just want to use all the gifts and experiences that I have to go serve others. And that was through the ministry of Young Life. So Young Life was it's a huge nonprofit Christian organization. Gavin's got the hat on.
I more often than not wear a Young Life hat, and I tend to just wear hats that I get for free that I like the shape of.
Yeah.
So again, if anybody wants to give me a hat that they want to see on this podcast that is a good shape, I'd probably wear it.
Yeah, but it's got to have the snapback.
Snapback, yes.
Can't do the fitted.
100%.
That's not cool anymore. Yeah. So that's the disclosure.
Correct.
Has to be a snapback.
So back to Young Life, sorry.
So working with Young Life, I was 22 and I started as this position called the area director, which is really a lot of responsibility for a 22-year-old. I was immediately in charge of 60 volunteers.
And this was back in Snohomish.
Back in Snohomish. Okay. Anywhere from, a 19-year-old college kid to a 68-year-old retired mom or grandma who wanted to invest into the youth, And so that was a lot of power given into this position at a young age. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew I loved the Lord. I connected well with teenagers. I was 22, so I barely was not a teenager myself. And I knew that, kids needed a place where they feel like they belonged in a spot to feel safe to talk about God and their feelings and who they're becoming. And because it's just alarming. It's alarming how many kids are just suffering alone and in silence. And if they don't have an adult really caring about them and walking with them in their life, they can just live their teenage years and they become young adults. And then eventually they become, workers in the community and society. They become parents and they're still hurting because no one really cared enough to really get to know them, and their peers can only do so much, So teachers, coaches, mentors, all great. Young Life was awesome because it was after school programs. It was, volunteers going into the schools, going to where the kids are, not waiting for them to come to you, building that relationship, building that trust, and then sharing the gospel of Jesus, which is of hope and good news and for peace. Because anxiety is the number one thing that people struggle with in general, I think. And for teenagers, it's just getting worse and worse. So I did that in Snohomish for 5 years, fundraised a lot of money in that time. So my job, leading volunteers, fundraising money, running the program, training, marketing. I felt like I was a little mini CEO of my little Young Life area.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to necessarily say this is good or not good, how Young Life structures their compensation for this position necessarily. We don't have to say whether we're a fan of that or not, but I will say that had an impact on you and the way that you ran that as a business, right?
Yeah.
That was your income stream. So maybe, again, just for the sake of kind of telling the backstory as to how you got to where you are, maybe share about that just a tiny bit, because you were raising support, correct?
Raising support to get paid. Yeah. And it is not easy to do that.
Right.
You find that your worth is in a dollar amount. And if I wanted to get, paid more, okay, that sounds great. Go out and ask people for money, essentially is what it was at the blunt, level.
Right.
Go ask people for money and, continue to do that. So I got really good at sitting down with folks, 20 meetings a day or 20 meetings a week.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, this is Young Life. Do you want to be involved on the board as a volunteer? Do you want to be a donor, partner, prayer team, whatever else? And it was just the law of large numbers. You just reach out to as many people as you can.
Yeah.
And, we would have people who would give monthly donations. I think the lowest was $5 a month. A high school kid who's like, I love this. I'm all in. He's 16 years old giving $5
amazing.
A month. That meant more to me.
Yeah.
Than the $1,000 a month.
Well, that's like the lady in the Bible that gives the penny, right?
Yes, exactly. And I mean, when I saw that first donation come through, I was just in tears. It was incredible. But yeah, it was, the talking about money, talking about just the spirituality of just, giving and what it can do for you as a person. Yeah. It got me, it was great, but it also was a struggle, when you start having kids and expenses become a thing and you kind of realize, well, I'm in ministry because I feel like I'm making a difference. It's not really about the money, and God's always provided. This is all true. However, when the money's not coming in and when we have times like 2020 and 2022 when the market's down and people aren't, they didn't have a good year. They can't give that $5,000 year-end check. Like you kind of depend on every year. Yeah. Or people call you and they say, I got to pull out because, we just got a divorce and half my money's going to my wife and whatever else. My kid fell rock climbing and these huge medical expenses. That's life, sadly. Some of those things are negative that I mentioned, but all of them are negative, but that's just how things go. And so it was pretty unstable at times.
And let me jump in too for clarity, just so we don't tell the wrong story here. Not that you are, but I just don't want anyone to think that you were in this for the money, right? I mean, you felt called into ministry, and your way of earning compensation or your income was to go effectively get people excited about the Young Life ministry, which was for the sake of the kingdom, right?
That's right. Yes. That was always first, of course. There's no question. And and I really loved it because when you give your time, your talents, or your money, your heart is in it. You want to see good happen to it. And what I loved about it was people, they receive so much more by giving in any capacity, And so as touchy and as feely as the subject of money can be with people, it really was a great opportunity for me to say, hey, there's another way to think about this. Like, think about how many coffees you buy a month. This was $5, maybe Americano. Nowadays, what's it going to be in 10 years? Maybe $10.
It's an inflation conversation for another day, maybe.
Yes. And,
or actually an inflation conversation to have with Jacob when you book time with him.
That's right. Yes. Let's protect you from inflation or against inflation. Yeah. Like what if you, drank one of these less a week or bought one of these less a week and donated? So it just made it, it made it fun. It made it a game, but it was it was a sales pitch, but it was okay. Cause I believed in the product, which was you in a way are going to be affecting a teenager's life for the rest of their life.
Correct.
Whether they come to know Jesus or not. And I pray that they all do. We are planting and scattering so many seeds from the ministry, and there needs to be a backbone of funding for it. And so if I can be, a talking piece of, connecting you to the kid and through your giving, then let me be that relationship to you, because, that's the most important thing. And so I got really good at, telling the story and then also following up. You got to follow up. People know like, okay, like I gave to this thing, but like what's happening, Yeah.
And if we could underline or bold that for people to take away, follow up.
Oh yeah. You got to follow up. People want to know, what am I giving to? It's like with prayer. Okay. Well, you told me to pray for this kid. Well, what's happening? Like, is God answering my prayers? Like give me the update. Cause I'm praying. You said, here's my prayer request. I'm doing it. How's it going? So that type of stuff was really great. And I just love sharing the story. And, a lot of great connections along the way.
Super awesome. And again, just for, I think, additional clarity too, you were on mission, right? This was not, how does Jacob earn an income necessarily? Yes, you had to earn an income to provide for your financial needs and for your family.
Yeah.
But you were on mission, right? And
oh yeah, big time.
You were fundraising for the kingdom. And, for the kingdom primarily, but through the ministry of Young Life, right?
Yep. Leading teams and making connections and telling the kids like, the greatest thing I did wasn't even the fundraising part. It was just the being in a relationship with these teenage boys that I was leading and giving them some sort of hope and a good message and really just a lasting relationship. Some of the guys that when I was 22, I had a group of guys I was leading. They're all now getting married and they might start having babies. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you were like a 13-year-old kid when I met you. But that was, 10, 20, 12 years ago, whatever it might be. And now you're graduating college and doing these things. And some of them don't even know the Lord. Like they're not walking with the Lord yet. There's that hope that they will.
Seed planted, hopefully, right?
Yeah, 100%. And they talk to me and we still talk time to time and they see how I live. They see what I'm doing and you're in it for the long haul, So it's been great. Yeah. Young Life was a really great experience. Taught me a lot about people, leadership.
Yeah.
Really passionate personally about leadership. I wanted to make sure I mentioned this. I've heard people say like, you're how do you know what you're passionate about? Well, if you see something happening that's an injustice to you and it makes you feel like, ooh, that's not right. That's how you know what you're passionate about. When someone at church, when there's a guest speaker and they come talking about like, there's no water access in this part of the world and people are dying of thirst. I'm like, that doesn't seem right. That means I'm not passionate about trying to reach those people to meet their, human needs before their spiritual needs. I feel that way about leadership. When I see good leadership, I'm all in with that. Like out of principle, I want to follow you. I want to be on your team. I believe in what you're doing. But when you see poor leadership, I mean, for some people, it's like, yeah, it's like wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
They seem like a great leader. Yeah. Charismatic.
Yeah.
But where's their character at? That's the hard part.
Right.
As well. So when I see good leaders and when I see bad leaders, it helps me, pick the things that I like from the good ones and probably throw away the things I don't like from the bad ones. But that's something that within ministry context, business context, even your own family, you're always leading somebody. And oftentimes, you can be leading yourself in different ways. And so leadership is a huge thing that I'm very passionate about and would talk to anybody about for hours on end, because when you see it done well, there's nothing better, honestly. But when it's done poorly, you can leave a damage in the wake behind you with people.
Absolutely. Let's transition just a little bit. So you and I have had many conversations. I don't know if many might be too many, but we had several meaningful conversations as you were considering exiting not full-time, I should clarify, as you were considering the exit of vocational ministry, right? And so for clarity, that means you do ministry and you earn your income through ministry, right?
Yes.
And I recall you kind of wrestling with, is this okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess rather than me tell the story for you, I think that would be a good place to kind of go next.
Yeah. I mean, I wrestled a lot about the decision to kind of switch careers completely. I mean, it like probably looking back, it was really like a 3-year questioning period. And the hardest thing, and even today, still the hardest thing, was my identity was wrapped so much around being a ministry person, pastoral person, a person in leadership, a person that people would rely on for, taking care of their souls essentially, or their needs, hey, I'm struggling. Can you come, can you pray for me? All this stuff. And it was just a big responsibility. And I liked the responsibility, whether it was selfish or not, which was a little bit of like, you want to feel like you're important. I just couldn't see my life doing anything else, graduating college, being 22 years old, getting into vocational ministry, and then doing it for 9 years. You wonder, what else could I do? And I felt myself a bit at a crossroads. I either continue down this path, and this is what I do my whole life, or I totally switch something up and see how I can maybe serve, people in a different arena, but still use my same gifts.
Yeah. And let me interrupt you real quickly, because I have the unique perspective of seeing the transition. And for me, it really doesn't look that different, right? I would say,
I appreciate you saying that.
You've got a guy here who was in vocational ministry, who was on mission, really kind of in a type of a sales role, to a guy now who is in the secular world, but largely in a sales position, kind of doing similar things, meeting with people, caring for people. And I would argue, and I want to plug you this way, you're still on mission as you were when you were in vocational ministry.
Yeah. I appreciate that. And I agree. I feel like I'm a minister of finance now.
There you go.
And that's really what it is. I had to tell myself like, hey, I'm the same person. The difference is my relationship with God, I felt was so dependent on what I did for him in young life. Like, hey, God only loves me because I'm, giving my life to serve his people. Like that was something I believed for a long time. God will only love me if I am a Young Life staff person or I worked at a church, because I've had opportunities to go work at churches. And I always said no, because I loved the outreach that Young Life did, the going to part instead of waiting for someone to walk into a building. I loved I'm going to go up to a group of
outbound versus inbound.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
We started a skate ministry. You know this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Skate Life, which is my friend Zach Porter.
Love that guy.
And I started, he's running it.
Yep.
And he, we went.
Hey, Zach, hope you're listening.
Yeah, man. We went to Tully Park in Meridian, and there's these kids smoking weed in their car. We're knocking on the window like, hey, you guys want some pizza? We'll record you skateboarding. And then we tell them, then we read out of the Bible 30 minutes later, and they're like, what is this thing? So it's stuff like that. So I always loved that.
Yeah.
However, so back to my identity, like I just felt like, man, if not me, then who? So it kind of like kept me in it, and not really in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And then I was getting really burnt out through fundraising in particular.
Yeah.
And just the leading of the teams. And, I'm a people pleaser. I'm a recovering people pleaser. I don't want to always please people, but that's just my, and I'm non-confrontational typically. And there's some things that make for really good, like some of the traits I have make for really great leadership ministry people. And on the other side of that coin, it could really tear you down when you're alone, And so I just saw how I was, maybe just internalizing my worth in my work. And when I really, ripped the Band-Aid off and went into the financial services industry, I realized, oh my gosh, God loves me just the same. He doesn't change. His love for me does not change, which is, I knew that in my head. I just didn't know it in my heart yet, And then now when I go
that's
to the Lord,
the biggest 18 inches or whatever it is, or 12 inches.
Yeah. Longest journey of your life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Head to the heart.
That's right. And now I realize, well, God loves me no matter what. And I'm now choosing, when I pray, when I read scripture, when I talk to people about Jesus, I'm now choosing to do this because I like it and I want to, not because it's my job.
Yeah.
And that was incredibly freeing. And so now I'm like, well, sky's the limit, what else can I do?
Yeah.
And I think about, particularly with money and that's the world I'm in now. And I've had people say, oh, financial advising, Jacob, the love of money is the root of all evil. I'm like, yeah, the love of it is.
Yeah.
In money itself, that's not it. You can love it or hate it, but I'm going to help you steward it. That's my thing, is stewardship.
So good.
And so, it's an emotional topic. I get to use my pastoral gifts trying to help people emotionally navigate money, whether it's debt or their goals and things like that. People tell me things they don't even tell their spouse when it comes to money, which is fascinating. I would not recommend that, by the way. but it's been fantastic. But it was a lot of tears. I mean, a lot of emotional breakdowns, i.e. tears, of thinking about even doing anything else, because I was really good at it. I was a really great area director. I mean, I loved pouring into the leaders and the kids. But I just knew I had to move on, and it needed to be somebody else to take that baton. Mm-hmm. And I can now serve, not just Young Life, but other awesome Christian ministries in a different way, Yeah,
we should probably record another podcast sometime talking about Christians in secular businesses pursuing an income and that journey from head to heart, right? Because even in my men's group this morning, we were talking about how the pursuit of more money, we know and believe as a Christian, more money is not going to make me more happy. It will not.
Right.
But yet I have this drive to earn more income. And I know, in my head, it's not going to give me more joy and more happiness, right?
Yep.
But the reality is my heart doesn't always believe that to be true, right? And our heart is what drives a lot of our decision-making, and out of our mouths comes words that come from our heart.
Yeah.
Right? So
100%.
Anyway, probably a bigger conversation for another time.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, no question. I mean, there's been times where, ministry pay type of people, which there's a camp that's like, hey, I think ministers, pastors, they should get paid a ton. They do a great job, I'm in that boat for sure. And then there's others where it's like, no, they do this, and what is their job? Let them just, get paid what they get paid. But the fatigue of living, and many people live this way, month to month on paychecks. It's not just ministry folks. It's a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Because that lifestyle creep kicks in, and you're spending a little bit more than you're earning. And it gets, oh my gosh, am I ever going to break through? Or why are we doing this? Is it because everyone else is doing it? But you get so fatigued every month when you look at your bank account, oh my gosh, how are we going to make it? I got to start praying it. I got to just rely on the Lord. And every time He's provided, So it's like, well, I know He's going to provide. Why am I stressing out so much about this? But there is a bit of a fatigue of, it's kind of like callousing, yourself. When you lift weights and you start getting the callus on your hands.
Yeah.
It's good because it's building you stronger. It's building you back better. And so now I'm like, there's nothing that God hasn't done financially in my life that He won't continue to do. And if He's done it for me, He can do it for anybody.
Yeah.
You just got to have that faith and go to Him early and often.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of things that I want to maybe kind of come close to wrapping us up on. But the first thing is people that live paycheck to paycheck. Is that your specialty? Are you able to help advise people?
Yes.
In that? Because if that's the majority of people, right?
Yes. Yes, and yes, 100%. Yeah. There's, again, it's so emotional, and it's not just investing that I have expertise in. It's budgeting, and it's cash flow analysis, and it's looking at, okay, could we spend less here and do more there?
Yeah.
And it's tax planning, and it all comes together. But, my wife was reading this book about the Dust Bowl. Okay. I don't know if you remember the Dust. I mean, it was 100 years ago. So
1930s, right?
Yeah, something like that. Like, I don't know where I missed that in history class growing up, but Snohomish School District. I'm just kidding. They were great. They were great. I'm sure we learned about the Dust Bowl, but my wife was reading about like people who would move west. Cause in Texas, it was this huge dust storm, and they had to flee the crops, and the farms were getting destroyed. They moved west. And people in California in particular didn't want all these newcomers from Oklahoma and Texas. So they would put them to work. And it was basically slavery. And it was a debt you could never pay off.
Oh,
you could work and work and work, but you would work your whole life, die. Your kids would work trying to pay off your debt. And it was just a losing game. And to me, and that's still happening in the world, by the way, this modern day slavery type. And to me, that's what credit card debt is. The interest rate on credit cards are so high. I think the highest I saw was 31 APR.
Yeah, I was going to say about 30%, I think.
Yes. And you see how much interest is paid if you don't pay back your full balance every month. And it's really a hard cycle. So I see a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I see how people are just like, I don't want to be bound to that anymore, And I'm like, okay, well, how can we start trimming some things off? And, it's the Dave Ramsey approach a bit, but more than that, it's just building that trusted relationship. Okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. Let's come up with a plan. Let's sign a contract together. So when I don't want to not buy my $10 Americano, I can go back to this and say, oh, I did sign off on that. Like, yeah, let's be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So it's more than just managing money. It's helping grow your life on how you want to live, not where you're currently at. But I'm telling you, credit card debt's killer. So
yeah. Well, hey, so that's a great client for you, potentially somebody that would benefit from those conversations and that type of accountability and that type of planning. What if someone's listening to this and they're like, well, I'm not a Christian. Can I still work with Jacob? I kind of like his principles.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I work with a lot of people who are not Christians. And I mean, I do mean this. And Gavin, you know me. I do love a lot of people. Like, loving people is really the call in my life. I love people.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm really drawn to people who are not Christians. Like, when they don't know what they believe, or they're just like, they've been, like, I don't want anything to do with God. Okay, great. Let's still talk. Let's hang out. Like, I like to think of myself as super not judgmental, and someone who's I'll meet you where you're at, but I'm going to love you too much to keep you there at the same time. But that takes time in a relationship. So yeah, if you want to work with me, I work with everyone. If you can fog up a mirror, I'll work with you. I just want to help people. That's the end. That's at the end of the day. That is what I want to do. Yeah. And when you're stuck, and when you're bound to things like debt, and you're going through a huge crisis in your life that requires a lot of money that you might not have, and things are overwhelmed, or you're planning on saving for something or whatever it might be. Like, I help people, and I want to build that trust and let people know, like, if you have a plan, you can actually see where you're going, and if you have a target, you know what direction you're walking into. And if you don't have that, which is the majority of people, they don't know how much money they spend every month.
Yeah.
They need to be told, this is it. Okay. And it helps tremendously.
Yeah. It's amazing what a third party can do, because money is a very emotional thing. And it is a big gap between what we think in our head versus what's actually happening because of the way our heart's directing us. So,
Yep.
Well, dude, I love this conversation. We could go on for a lot longer, but for the sake of trying to keep this at the right length, I'd just love to conclude by saying, you're a dude who is living on mission, right? And you were on mission in vocational ministry through Young Life. Great program. Love Young Life. And you're still on mission helping people in the financial advising space.
Yeah.
Your job just looks a little bit different now.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. It feels, it's been a great transition.
Yeah.
And I don't regret any of it. It's been awesome. It's taught me a lot along the way. And there's still a lot more to be learned, and a lot more relationships to be had. And if you want to jump on the mission with me, it's like a ship. We're moving.
That's right.
Come jump on with me. Yeah. I don't want anyone to get left behind. I truly, like, there's a lot of help to be had, and that's why we're here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So appreciate you having me on.
Oh man, so glad you're here. And then just for me personally, Jacob and I had a conversation, I think about a week or so ago, where he's investing his time and helping me get educated on an investment opportunity as well. So this guy is super legit, and he's absolutely willing to lean in and serve. And B&I talks about giver's gain. I would say that's totally your MO. So.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Well, likewise, Gavin's amazing. I refer people to him whenever I can.
Yeah.
And it's nice when you have somebody who's incredibly competent in what they do and very warm at the same time.
Love that.
The warmth of the competency, if they're both, 10 out of 10, why would you want to work with anybody else? That's exactly how I feel about you, Gavin. So truthfully.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, you got it, man.
I feel the same. So how do people get in touch with you if they would like to get connected?
I'd say the first thing is LinkedIn, actually. Very active on LinkedIn. So my name, Jacob Davelaar, search me. If that's, if you're not on LinkedIn, that's fine. Email is a good second. I actually check my email every day, and I have 0 unread inbox emails. So I'm very proud to say that. Jacob at legacywealthmg.com.
Love that.
Hit me up. We'll start a conversation. I like to meet outside of the office, to be honest. I'd rather get coffee with somebody or lunch. If you want to meet in office, that's great as well. But let's have a conversation, see how I can help.
Couple quick questions. Can you help people in other states? We're currently here in Idaho where we're recording this.
Mm-hmm. I can. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Every state, all 50 states and Puerto Rico. So if you're listening to this in Puerto Rico,
awesome.
I can also help. Yes.
What if somebody has a financial advisor and that advisor's done okay for them, but they wouldn't rate their advisor like an 11 on the scale of 1 to 10? Maybe that advisor's like a 4.
Oh, yeah.
What advice would you give that person on how to break up with that advisor and come work with you?
Well, first I would say congratulations on having a financial advisor, because most people don't.
Yeah.
So you're already doing something right. So I would just praise you for that, because that is huge already. I would probably continue asking more questions, like, why is that person a 4? Are they not? For a lot of the times, it's either investment performance is not great or communication is really bad.
Yeah.
And so I would ask some of those questions of how often are you meeting with them? What are you in? Show me your statements. Maybe I can just give you some, second set of eyes on things.
Yeah.
And how to have that conversation is like, hey, listen, I met a guy. I think he could maybe do something else for me. And it's not personal. It's just business, whatever, it's not you, it's me.
Not you, it's me.
But that's the thing is, this, just like with any business, it's about relationships. And if you feel good about somebody and they can kind of back up what they do through data and having a really great, structure and program, and they speak for themselves, and I think it's hard because, you get emotional, you get attached to people. But if you see your advisor as a 4 out of 11 or 4 out of 10, I mean, it doesn't hurt just to meet with somebody else and just say, what else do you have that I might not be getting?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that we try to do here in this space and in my business as a mortgage broker as well, is we want to be more than a mortgage, right? But we want to provide people value before, during, and long after the transaction. And so one of the things I try to ask people is, hey, who do you have in your corner that's helping you both build wealth, protect your wealth, and protect your assets, right? And a lot of people would say, I don't have anybody in my corner doing those things, right? And so my goal is to try to introduce my past clients to quality people that I would say are an 11 on the scale of, 1 to 10.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here today.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, man.